It is a physical component of a computer system that we can touch and feel. Whatever the instruction that I am giving to the computer, that must be in the binary form. Every content is there in the zeros and ones. When I want to perform an intended task or a particular task, at that time I must use these kind of programming languages. Hello everybody, a warm welcome to one and all. Myself Rohini TS, lecturer in Computer Science, Vidhyaashram Pre-University College. So in this session, I am going to discuss something regarding this evolution of a computer programming languages. So as I discussed in the previous session, you already know that what do you mean by data and what is information and what are the basic terminologies that we must get to know, right? So just recall what do you mean by software and what do you mean by hardware, right? So hardware is nothing but what? It is a physical component of a computer system. It is a physical component of a computer system that we can touch and feel. But what do you mean by software? That is a set of instruction that instruct or that tells the computer hardware to perform a particular task, right? So in order to produce that software, we have a programming languages. So we have a set of code that standards are nothing but what? Programming languages. Then how these programming languages evolve from generation to generation, that I am going to discuss in this session. Okay, so programming languages are the languages that is nothing but what? These are the instruction that will be given to the computer in order to perform a particular task. Then how the evolution of a programming languages has been takes place. In this, I am going to have 5 generation of programming languages. How the programming languages evolve, that you can see here. Here I have a programming language. So there two types. There we have 2 types of programming languages, that is low level language along with a high level language. So which are the 2 types of programming languages that I have? Low level as well as the high level. Then low level is again categorized into first generation and second generation. So in programming languages we have categorized into 2 parts, that is low level language and high level language. In low level language again I have 2 generations, that is first generation and second generation. This is regarding first generation and second generation, which comes under low level language. So when it comes to the high level language, there I have 3 parts. So that is nothing but what? Third generation, fourth and fifth generation of a computer system. So third, fourth and fifth generation of a computer programming language. So let me get into the first generation. So what is this first generation languages consist of? So here you have to understand that computer understands only zeros and ones. So whatever the things that I am going to speak with you, that cannot be understood by the computer system. Why? Because computer understands only zeros and ones. So what I am going to talk or what I am going to type, that will be converted into machine understandable form. That will be converted into machine understandable form. That is nothing but what? Zeros and ones. So that is the first generation of a computer system. Whatever the instruction that I am giving to the computer, that must be in the binary form. That must be in the binary form. So that binary form is nothing but what? Zeros and ones. So every data instruction will be in the zeros and ones. Okay. So when I am using this first level language or a low level language, at that time no translation is required. So why no translation is required? Because already I am writing the instruction in a zeros and ones. So that no need to translate that zeros and ones into machine understandable form, because it's already in the machine understandable form. Then what is the disadvantage of this language? Can we remember all the zeros and ones which is given as an instruction or which is written as a program? That is impossible. So that is one of the disadvantage of using this low level language or a first generation language. That is nothing but what? Machine level language. It will going to understandable only by the computer system. Getting? It's regarding first generation of the computer programming languages. Here you can see that every content is there in the zeros and ones. So can you understand anything by looking into this? No, but these zeros and ones has a specific meaning to the computer system, specific meaning to the compiler. So now let me move on to the next computer language, that is second generation computer programming languages. So in first generation of computer languages, that is machine level instruction or machine level programming languages. There I am going to write everything in the zeros and ones. So when it comes to the second generation, it is also comes under the lower level languages, but instead of zeros and ones, I am going to use the symbols here. I am going to use symbols instead of zeros and ones. So that symbol is nothing but what? Mnemonics. So I am going to call that as a symbolic language or a mnemonics. Okay, let me write that one. M-N-E-M-O-N-I-C-S. So mnemonics are the symbols. So whatever the instruction that I am going to give, everything will be in the symbols. Okay, so when it comes to the assembly level language, so second generation of a programming languages are nothing but what? Assembly level languages. So it is mainly used to communicate with the kernels and the hardware drives. So when I want to communicate, or there must be a direct communication between the programmer along with this hardware and kernel drivers, at the time I am going to use this low level languages, that is assembly level language. So this assembly level language is also known as mnemonic code or a symbolic language. So that is one of the point that you have to understand regarding the second generation languages. Then what is the usage of this assembly level languages? It will going to act as a bridge. So it will going to act as a medium in between the hardware devices along with the higher level programming languages. So in previous slide you can see that here we have low level language and high level language. When I want to build a communication between the hardware and the high level language, at that time the second generation, that is nothing but what? Assembly level languages will going to help us. It acts as a bridge between the hardware devices along with the higher level programming languages. So here you can see one example which illustrates the usage of assembly level languages. Every code in zeros and ones, here I am going to write in the mnemonic symbols. So here you can see that procedure, CMP is nothing but compare. So in that manner, subtract, substitute. Okay, so in that manner I am going to write the code in order to give the instruction to the computer system. So this is regarding second generation of a programming languages, that is nothing but what? Assembly level languages. Okay, so up to here, up to first and second generation of programming languages, I am going to consider that as a lower level language. So when it comes to the third, fourth and fifth generation of a computer programming languages, together I can call that as a higher level languages or high level programming languages. So let me move on to the third generation programming languages. So what is this third generation programming languages consist of? It is higher version of the lower level languages. So the third generation of a programming languages that comes under the higher level programming languages, it acts as an enhanced or extended version of the previous languages. So in previous two languages, that is in lower level languages, first and second generation, there is no much interaction between the user and the computer system. But with the help of this third generation programming languages, it will going to make the programming language more programmer friendly. That means there will be more interaction between the computer system to the user. Okay, I can communicate with the computer system by making use of the icons, menus, like that. So what are the programming languages which comes under third generation of the languages? So it includes C, C++, Java and Visual Basic and JavaScript. So these are the programming languages which comes under third generation of a programming language. So here you can see the logo of third generation programming languages. So here I have C++, Java and C#. Okay, it should be pronounced as a C# instead of C#. Okay, so these are the third generation programming languages. So let me move on to the next generation, that is fourth generation programming languages. So when I consider the third generation of programming languages, that is the first generation which comes under higher level languages. So that provides more user friendly environment, that provides more user friendly environment, right? But when it comes to the fourth generation languages or fourth generation programming languages, so in this fourth generation programming languages, here I have a instruction in the human language. So in previous I am going to write a more user friendly instructions or more user friendly statements, but when it comes to the fourth generation languages, the statements are the instruction which I am going to write by making use of this fourth generation languages. So that will be in the human languages, that is in the English languages or any of the human languages. It provides more flexibility for the user and it makes the user friendly. So it is mainly intended to be user friendly and it must be easier for the user. Then what are the programming languages which comes under the fourth generation programming languages are? It includes Perl, Python, Ruby and SQL and MATLAB, that is matrix laboratory, mainly used for the image processing. Okay, so why I'm going to use these fourth generation programming languages? So these kind of programming languages are mainly used to perform a particular task. When I want to perform an intended task or a particular task, at that time I must use these kind of programming languages. So then what are the examples for the programming languages which is of fourth generation programming? So here I may include Perl, Python and Ruby along with SQL and MATLAB. Okay, so here you can see the symbols or a logo of fourth generation programming languages. So here it is nothing but what? Python and it is Ruby, then it is an SQL. All these programming languages are mainly used to perform an intended task or a particular task. Getting? So let me move on to the next programming generation, that is fifth generation of a programming language. So prior to all these fifth generation programming languages coming from the low level language as well as the higher level language, there I have what? 3 and 4th generation of programming languages. There we are going to write the code for the programming instruction. But in this fifth generation of a programming languages, it is more overly focuses on the visual tools in order to develop the program. So I am going to use the visual tools, that is drag and drop. When I am dragging that content, so at the background the code will going to generate. So instead of writing the code and all, I can just have this visual tools in order to develop the program. So what are the programming languages that I have for the fifth generation? That is Mercury and OPS5 and then Prolog. So these are the programming languages which has the ability to have the visual tools in order to develop the programming. Okay. So if I consider the fourth generation programming languages, at that time I am going to write the code in order to perform a specific task, isn't it? I am going to write a code in order to perform a specific task. But when it comes to the fifth generation programming languages, here what I am going to do? So I am going to write a code. I am going to perform an operation. That means I am going to write a code for the program which is based on the problem solving. So which is based on the problem solving using the constraint. So there must be some rules. So based on that rule, I am going to write a program in order to solve the problem. Okay. So that will be given to the program. So whatever the constraints which is given to the program, that means there must be some rules that I need to follow in order to solve the problem instead of writing a specific code for a specific problem. So based on the context or based on the situation, I am going to write a program so that it must be more user friendly and more flexible than the previous programming languages. So by considering this fifth generation programming languages, it will going to help the development of a decision making machine which becomes more easy. That means in order to take any decision by the machine, it will be easier for the machine. Based on that situation, we are going to create a program so that it will be easier for the machine in order to take the decision making. Okay, and for the automation, that is the main biggest advantage of using this fifth generation programming languages. So it will going to reduce the complexity. It will going to reduce the complexity of a programmer or a developer in order to provide the system automation. So it is the biggest advantage of using this fifth generation programming language. So here you can see some of the programming languages logo which I have taken just to make you understand what are the programming languages we have and how many programming languages we have. Okay, so the vast programming languages is there. So based on the requirement, we have to choose a programming language which we require. Okay, I hope you all understood with today's session. So in this session, I have discussed some of the programming languages based on the generation. So when it comes to the generation, there I have 5 generation of the programming languages. First 2 generation will be considered as a machine level or a low level programming languages, and 3, 4 and 5th generation of a programming languages is considered as a high level programming languages. It's all about today's session. I'm going to meet you in the next session with interesting content. Until that, keep learning, keep on watching. Thank you so much.